Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's Lee Perry interviewing someone who is extremely important to this community, the leader of an organization called Credible Messengers. And I'd love to introduce my dear friend Ruben. If you can tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here today.
Thank you. Like Miss Lee Perry said, I'm Ruben Saldana. I'm more so known as Coach Ruben here in Orange County. I'm currently the consultant to the mayor's gang citizen safety task force for youth crime prevention. The legal name for it is Credible Messengers. We're basically mentors with lived experience of the children or youth in high crime areas or disenfranchised neighborhoods. And I mean, how far you want me to go?
Well, I found this really fascinating when I first met you because you have such energy and you're so excited. And then when you start to actually listen to the words that you talk, the words that you choose to represent your mission and who you are, you're very real. You're very upfront. You're very to the point. And I just feel like you have a lot to unpack about you as a person and eventually how you got involved with Credible Messengers. So tell us a
Okay.
little bit about you as a human being.
As a human being, I'm I guess as human beings, we always want to hear like where you're born at, your nationalities, cultures, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I come from I was born in Brooklyn, New York, raised in Miami, but lived on in numerous places because of the military. So both my mom, dad, and stepdad worked for the Army. I come from a black Puerto Rican father who killed himself last year. He shot himself,
Sorry.
suicide, and I come from a white Italian mother. So in Brooklyn, New York, in that era in the '70s, that was a big no-no. That was racism, not only because of skin color difference, but because of the Puerto Rican and Italian beefs that were going on in New York City at that time. So culturally, it was pretty interesting. Depending on what side of the family I was with. But my heart is exactly what you described as a human. You know, I, racism, that's a whole nother topic, right? It's kind of hard, especially like in my situation, being mixed the way I am. I deny no side of who I am. But what I do is, at this point in my life, I have a heart for those abused, for those, I guess they call them bully victims these days, but it's even beyond that. You know, those oppressed. My heart goes to them,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm able to use my lived experience as a child to strengthen that, to have passion. That's why I have passion for what I do, because I see myself in a lot of these what they call victims or survivors on the streets. Myself, I came from a good family. Like I said, my family were military. I'm an Army brat. And the biggest mistake happened when we got moved to Miami. At that point, I didn't have a father figure in the household. So before I hit puberty, I ended up joining involuntarily. I got jumped on and said, "Hey, welcome to the gang." I joined my neighborhood gang, which happened to become the biggest gang in Miami, Florida by like 1988. And so we had thousands of members. Before I became an adult, I was already well, while I was still a teenager, I became the supreme leader of that gang.
Mm-hmm.
And so that didn't come from catching A's and B's in school. That came from stupidity, came from criminal activities. It came from violence. It came from who survived the hardest on the streets, not only with an intellect, but with a gun and all the
Mm-hmm.
other stuff that I fight against right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? Gun violence and, killing and hurting people that look just like you, that react just like you, that in the household pretty much have the same household as you,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. I can just tell you're so real. From the
Yeah.
second I met you, you're like, here I am. This is it. This is the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
don't have
yeah,
to work very hard to get to know you, to
yeah.
get to see what you're all about.
Right
And I
on.
think that is one of the best things you can do when being a role model.
Right on.
And B, it's someone who is so driven by mission. You live your mission
Right on. Yeah.
fully. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you today. I'm so curious because being in a gang and now working so hard to champion social programs to help stop at-risk youth from being indoctrinated into gangs. How has society treated you from when you were in the gang to now?
This is going to sound crazy, but life was a lot easier when I was a gangbanger. It was a lot easier because when you're doing wrong, people expect the results of wrongdoing, right? So if I'm doing wrong, oh, he's a this, he's a that, or she's a this. You're right. That's right. We're gangbanging, right? That's what we do, right? But when you're trying to live right, that's when you come under the telescope. That's when everybody looks for every little single error in your life because you're supposed to be this angel, so they think non-gangbanging means angel all of a sudden, right? No, let's get it corrected, right? So yeah, life was easier being a gangbanger when it came to being judged by society. Because when you see an open out gangbanger throwing gang signs representing the hood, you know what to expect. So everybody like, oh, you're this. Yeah, that's right, I'm this. Then your ego gets bigger. Then you got to defend your ego, right? But when you're trying to do the right thing, you get judged really quick. So in that aspect, it was easier. And a lot of people don't expect that. Another thing is I want to make something clear on something that you said. I've spoken with a couple of parents, a couple of commissioners, or actually a commissioner asked me to speak to parents about gangs, to educate them on gangs. And I'm going to tell you the same thing I've told the parents, that I know the commissioner or yourself, expects me to come up here and speak bad about gangs. I love gangs and I understand gangs. What I'm against is criminal street gang activity. It's a big difference, right? A gang is by definition 3 or more with similar, associates with similar, whatever, depending on what state, similar things, similar colors, similar views and things like that, right? And so that can spill into a lot of areas. That is the tribe, that is the family, right? If kids are being raised in single mom household, or even a mom and dad, and there's not enough love there, or they don't feel like there's enough love there, or they're not being supervised, they're going to unite with each other. But the problem becomes when the leader of that gang, what are they directing the members to do? What if when I was in Miami and I became a member of the biggest gang in Miami, what if our leader at that time said, hey, from here on out, no more graffitiing on stores, no more carrying guns, no more selling drugs, and everybody's getting appointed to an old lady and you got to cut their grass and walk them across the street every week. And if you don't have an old lady, I'm going to find one for you. We would have done it. And why? The leader said do it, and it's cool. Our leader is cool, right? So this is what's happening across America right now, because I do, my root camp and the Credible Messenger work in LA, Compton, Chicago, right? And a lot, if not every leader I've met is changing the narrative. They really are. And maybe it might be too late. Maybe the criminal element of retaliation is too deep in, but there's nothing wrong with gangs. There's something wrong with criminal activities within the gangs from the leadership.
Right.
And what a lot of people fail to realize, and this was my case as well, the nation, United States' biggest gangs, there's 4 of them, and I don't need a name call them, but every single one of them was started by kids. These were teenagers. Regardless if they became the biggest, most notorious gangs in the world right now, they were started and ran by children, teenagers, all of them under 18. Right? And so imagine a bunch of kids in an environment in hoods trying to come up with their own theologies, with their own ideologies, with their own concept. Of course, it's going to be corrupted and defensive and childlike and stuff. And then, sometimes that could work in our favor too. Look what happened with the Young Lords and the Black Panthers. Regardless of what we don't agree with them, whether it's a socialism or communism aspect, but they made change that people are reaping the benefits of today, that a lot of people, them after school programs, that free breakfast, all that came from them. Right. And so a lot of people don't know that or don't want to acknowledge it. Right. And so that's an example of youth having a different ideology dealing with the streets.
Well, you said a lot, and I really want to unpack a lot of what you just said. First off, I love the idea of gang leaders changing the narrative. However, there are other factors, like you brought up retaliation. There are a lot of factors when you think about territory and resources. And quite frankly, the way that in some communities, police and governments have also manipulated and influenced the gang violence and help facilitate it and worsen it, and then utilize that messaging in order to attack minority groups in the pipeline to prison
Right.
in order to have cheap labor for, the for-profit prison complex. But there's so many other factors. Have you had experiences seeing some of those factors come to life? And I really want to get to the root of like, what kind of damage does that do to the communities that really need resources? Because we're kind of lumping people who are struggling, who end up in gangs, who are their families that end up getting into gang violence and activities that are not legal, being kind of just marginalized into these groups and then just targeted with rhetoric that makes them villains rather than the root of where we need to actually pour resources into these communities.
Okay, so I see a twofold question in there. The second one, and I'll address it after the first one, is about making the gangs or the minority communities into villains. And then the first one, you said, what have I seen or experienced concerning the that marginalization, if I'm saying that correctly. In my own language, I was one of those slaves by the 13th Amendment of the United States. I was a legal slave of the United States of America, right? Slavery was never abolished for prisoners. I was a prisoner starting at the age of 16 for 19 years. I did 19 years in prison as a slave here in Florida. I know exactly what that feels like. I was there when there wasn't a ton of Black and Puerto Rican correctional officers like there are now. And when that new wave came into the system, right, that wasn't even a legit Puerto Rican and Black wave coming in. As they know, and anybody who's been in prison system knows, they were trying to outdo the white man. They were trying to outdo the redneck. They were trying to outdo, and I don't say this out of racism. The redneck would tell you, I'm a damn cracker. I'm a redneck. I'm not putting a label on them other than what they put on themselves. I'm a redneck. I'm a cracker. I'm proud, right? And this is who our slave master was. And so here we are, right, being called boy, being called spick, being called nigger, being called every derogatory term that you could think. We were never referred to as a man because we had to think that we were a boy and we had to answer up to master. What master said was God to us, right? And so there was a mental twist to this degradation as well. And so, I don't have to tell you what I thought about it. I experienced it for 19 years. And going to the oldest prison in the state of Florida, Union Correctional, which was the original FSP. It's over 100 years old. Being over there by the death row unit, the worst of the worst, down to some of what they call the sweeter camps, the nicer camps when you have good behavior and stuff. And so the experience is horrible. It's I don't see a lot of our youth being able to even make it right now. They're without committing suicide, without joining gangs, without they're mentally broken. The kids that we have now are not from my generation. We talk about Generation X. I believe Generation X not only was a lot more mentally stronger in surviving these type of warfares, we didn't have a lot of things going on that the kids are doing now. Like suicide was a very, very rare thing in our communities. And when you do it statistically, it's in abundance now. So that shows for itself. We appreciated our life, even if it was a hard life. But as well, we failed our kids. We failed them. We didn't give them the roadmap on survival like it was given to us. We just told them, don't do this. We might have talked about consequences. So we wanted perfection from imperfected kids. And we didn't want to give them a roadmap and help them and guide them through that and navigate them through the struggles. And so when it comes to the system, making the community into villains, absolutely. It doesn't matter who doesn't like it. Enough studies have came out, like the Dozier, the boy, Mariana and Okeechobee and stuff. Like, look, they found, I think 50, 60, maybe more than that, graves, right? Friends of mine were going to that, right? Those were what we call juvenile prison. I don't know what the legal name, boys and girls homes or whatever,
Detention.
right? It was like it was beyond the detention facilities. You got each detention center in each county can get sentenced there. Now they're digging up kids' graves. Some of the parents were like, "What happened to my child?" There was no answers. There was no remedies. This is real. Look it up in Dozier, right? This is real. Mariana, I think it was, and Chobe. They're finding the graves. I drove by there recently, and it was sick. So if this is the best that our society had to offer on habilitation. It's definitely not rehabilitation, because you have to go back to habilitation. But you got kids who are never habilitated from the beginning. To rehabilitate them is impossible. There's no circle up there. You have to give habilitation before you can rehabilitate. And they came in without habilitation, right? And so the Hoover Files, we know this is real. That's where I'm going. A lot of people, oh, it's a myth, the system this, accountability. Truth, we do need accountability. But it's already proven there is systematic racism. There is, let me give an example. Some of the heroes of the United States is Bonnie and Clyde, who I happen to have been in Dallas to both of them. Even myself, I went to their funerals. I went to the spot where they were shot and killed, right? They're heroes. They were cop killers. They were robbers. They were what we would call terrorists of society. But why do they get the pass? Why do they get to become heroes in our society? Bonnie and Clyde and Al Capone, right? Why? Because, white society, white heroes, outlaws. Okay, so what if we start making the Tupacs and our Latin King leaders, or our disciple leaders, or the brothers and sisters that are in prisons with a lot of time, that created these street gangs that have taken over our nation? What if those become our heroes in time? As soon as we start bringing up their names for their freedom, the first thing people want to say, oh, they terrorized neighborhoods, they sold drugs. But look at Bonnie and Clyde, right? We make heroes out of them, but we can't make our own heroes out of them. And I'm not saying we should make heroes out of criminal activity. I'm not saying that. At least our heroes have demonstrated change in their life and have completely quit crimes.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of white collar crime that's not being held accountable.
Of course. Absolutely.
Well, I want to talk to the people who, first, let me just say, when I talk to you, I feel a lot of nostalgia. Right? Because you're so real, you're so to the point. And I think, my circumstances were really challenging. I had a mom that was an addict, and a father who was very abusive, lots of gangs. I grew up in the projects in Massachusetts. And yet those were some of the best days of my life.
Right.
Because everyone was kind of a family.
Right.
Everyone had their doors open. It was a very, crime-ridden community, but I felt so safe. I felt like everyone had each other's back. I felt like that isolation that I feel here in Florida, of everyone is in their own little home. They get in their car, they go to work. They're not really in that community sense, the sense that a lot of people are attracted to gangs, as you mentioned, because they want to feel that sense of family, that sense of community. Well, growing up in that, especially in Massachusetts, taxes are higher in Massachusetts. We had a lot of social programs that have shaped through the years, but at least in my experience, where there were drop-in centers and various rehabilitation clinics that really tried to have no judgment and have an open door policy for people of all different walks of life. Being exposed to that very young, I think, was one of the greatest gifts that ever could have happened to me personally, because it removed this facade of, those people over there, they're the ones that are doing the crime. They're the ones that are, it put a human face and a human feel to the stories and to the people who are going through these experiences, who might, have to rob a convenience store because they can't put food on their table. Or they might have to do drugs because they're battling with such extreme mental health issues that they're on the verge of committing suicide. I mean, these are human beings. These human beings have stories. Right. It's not just a headline on the news that you just cast in your mind as those people in that group over there in that community. Right. These are stories. I would love to hear from you more on how you got into changing the status quo and opening up the hearts and minds of the people in your community through credible messengers.
Okay. So before I talk about changing the status quo, I was in relation to what you're saying, and I think this will kind of bridge it all in. So I live off of OBT, which is the most notorious street in Orlando, Florida. It's known for crack and prostitution, and really crack is like a minimum right now. All that other stuff they got going on out there right now is I don't even know if crack even exists on OBT anymore. But anyhow, it's known for prostitutes and strip clubs and, high crime. I live in 32839, which is number one for gun violence. At least it was 2 or 3 months ago and beyond. And when the kids see prostitutes, because in Orlando it was a famous joke. I seen your mama on OBT, right? Basically, your mom was a crackhead or a prostitute or whatever have you, right? That narrative has changed. Kids don't say that no more. If they do, it's so rare, and I think that has a lot to do with the narratives like credible messenger training. What we're putting out there, because like when I first started doing this work 9 years ago on OBT, and they would go to laughing at the prostitutes or make fun, I'll tell them stop it. Because that was once somebody's little baby girl.
Mm-hmm.
And what led that baby girl to pick up that type of lifestyle? What happened in her life that she feels like she had to devalue her body? Now, her body, her choice. I personally support, don't support, it doesn't matter. If a person wants to be a sex worker, I think they should have that choice. They should, if that's what they want to do. However, it's been my experience dealing with former not really prostitutes off of OBT, but escorts, which is basically high-class prostitution, right? That they were, I've never met one that wasn't molested, not one.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were very loyal girlfriends to their boyfriends. It's just a lot of my homeboys just weren't loyal boyfriends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm laughing about it, but it's just, I think if they were given the right, there's an old saying in the hood, you can't make a hoe into a housewife. I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd challenge that narrative, and I'm sorry for using the word, but if we're going to be blunt about it, that's what it was called, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now where I'm fast forwarding, my kids, when we go on OBT, which I said I live there, I train 50, 60, 70 kids there, and we don't laugh at they don't laugh at prostitutes. And it's worked out so good because sometimes when I'm walking them streets, because we do sneaks to the streets, we don't do boots to the ground like Massachusetts because it's not cold over here. We're not wearing a lot of boots, right? So I call it sneaks to the streets. That's one of Credible Messenger's mottos here in Orange County. And when we're walking, the kids aren't laughing at prostitutes. And what happens a lot of times, I guess the prostitutes aren't used to kids not laughing at them and giggling and doing all the snickering. And like little girls come out of those prostitutes, they're like, "Hey, how you doing, honey?" And they're not looking at me like a John, you know what I'm saying? And so I see the little girl come out of them again, right? And I'm like, wow. And it kind of breaks my heart. No matter what condition they look like, whether they look drugged out or whether they look just beautiful and pretty much probably being sex trafficked, right? I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying. And so that's how the narratives get changed. The narratives get changed by flipping the script on every aspect. Okay, how does society say we're supposed to look at somebody like me, who's been in prison, who was a gang leader, who was involved in violence, some of the worst violence known to mankind, right? No rapes, no child molestations, nothing like that. But still, violence is violence, right? And I'm supposed to be buried, never given a second chance. Some of the churches won't even give me a second chance or a third or fourth, right? But the kids do. It's not really always the parents, it's the kids. And when the parents see the change in the kids, they're like, hold up, coach got something going on here. What is the formula? And the formula has always been there. And especially for the people, I'm kind of somewhat bashing the church right now, but they need to hear it because some of the churches have been the worst ones I've had to deal with, right? Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, killed Christians. He killed them. He slaughtered them. He was anti-Christian, right? And then so you go to Moses, it's full of violence and murder and forgiveness and second chances. And so this is the world's biggest religion. How in the hell are you embracing the world's biggest religion based upon forgiveness, but you can't forgive the neighbor? Forget loving the neighbor because we ain't even got halfway there yet. How do you forgive the neighbor, right? So this credible messenger model has always existed. We just put a name to it here. Lee-Alyse is a former Black Panther, in New York State. But credible messengers have always existed.
So tell us a little bit about Credible Messenger and how you got involved.
Credible Messengers started in New York City with the Department of Probation. Lee-Alyse was in prison and came up with this brilliant study. I think it was called the 7 Neighborhood Study. And it was brilliant at that time because there was no internet. And it was in the 70s. And in a prison, him and some guys met up and said, okay, 75% of New York State prison system comes from 7 neighborhoods in New York City. It's confusing to a lot of people how New York State is this, New York City is this. So only 7 neighborhoods were filling up the prison system. And so they looked at the similarities with poverty, lack of education, lack of father figures, blah, blah, blah. They made the study. And so Lee-Alyse said the cure is to send people like us, credible messengers with lived experience, back to those neighborhoods that we have the credibility to bring the message of change.
Mm-hmm.
And so a brother, we call him the Godfather, Clinton Lacey, who came down, who Orange County, I'm so grateful, paid for him to come down and train a good 20 of us this summer. And we're the first county, I'm proud of Orange County is the first county to invest into credible messengers in the whole state of Florida, right? And what he did was he told probation officers, I'm going to hire a credible messenger with each one of you that have, I believe it was a youth under 25. And of course, there was a lot of hell being raised. You know, he was using private funds and New York City, $75 million of the New York City's state or city funds. I don't know which one it was. And then he had 30 mil donated, $120 million to play with this credible messenger model. And that was, I'm guessing 20 years ago. And it's so successful right now. It's spreading throughout the world. That even Orange County invested into it. And so what he did was he gave those who were formerly incarcerated a chance to stop saying nobody will hire us. And not only did they get hired, but they became experts in their field. I'm a gang expert. I don't need a certificate. I don't need nobody's approval from the streets, from the prisons, from the government. I don't need nobody's. I know I'm a gang expert. I know I'm a street expert because I know where I've been at and I know where I've done. It doesn't make me perfect. It doesn't make me bulletproof, right? But I'm an expert in that field. And they recognize the expertise of experience. I can't talk about drug addiction because I'm not a former drug addict. I can't talk about prostitution, but I know some sisters that can. And I'll listen and I'll be their student, right? The stuff that you've experienced. Sometimes we think people that don't have records don't have experience. That's a damn lie. That's a big fat lie. And we're changing that narrative. Everybody thinks a credible messenger has to be somebody that's been in prison. Here in Orange County, the vast majority of our credible messengers are women. Not a single one of them have been in prison. Not one. A lot of people don't know that. And them sisters come to them streets with me and they lay the message down just as well. And they have their own experiences. They didn't need handcuffs to have experiences with child molestation, with drug addiction, with gangs. Because when I was growing up, the sisters did a lot of work too. There was a time the police couldn't pat them. They were the ones carrying the guns. They were the ones that, that had it in the purse. They were the ones that drive aways that weren't snitching while the fellas were all snitching on each other. You know what I mean?
Well, I want to ask you, back from your personal experience, what was your it moment? Because, you were talking before about being in a gang and having an inflamed ego, just kind of reverberate on whatever violence that was being committed in the streets. You go back and it just kind of inflames the ego of the gang member. But you must have had a moment that clicked inside of you that you said, enough. I'm going to change my life now. What was that moment? That
moment that really changed my life to say I don't want to be a gang member, more or less a leader no more, was in 1999 when I had handcuffs put on me for 2 counts of first-degree execution-style murders here in Orange County. Never alleged to be at the crime scene. Never, not once by any prosecutor. It was one of those things where he's a leader of a gang. Other gang leaders got killed. We got to tie it in. We have to take this guy down. We got to tie it all in. Florida is the first state that I know of that used the RICO Act, which normally breaks up mafias on kids and gangs. 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. Florida, we had it pretty hard when it came to our laws, right? There's still a whole bunch of them, but unlike any other state. And so I became a target. I was no angel. I was involved in certain criminal activities, but I did not commit those crimes. And so when I caught that case and started seeing these so-called hardcore, loyal, do-to-die gamer, I sat there. I feel like I was on the cross. I didn't make a statement against anybody. I didn't write a statement. I didn't sign a statement. I said, I'm going to trial. I didn't do this. I'm going to beat it. And when I started seeing my homeboys and homegirls start folding and writing, because they all had other charges pending. So give us Ruben. They didn't call me Coach Ruben then. Give us Ruben, and we'll throw this away. When I started seeing that, I said, I'm being loyal to a fictitious lifestyle, and it broke my heart. It's like a devoted wife or a devoted husband to their mate, And then they realize, damn, I've been loyal for 15, 20 years. I gave my love, life, and loyalty to my gang. And I would tell you in your face, this means more to me than my family, than anybody. My gang came first. And that's because I was brainwashed as a child to believe that. And I believed it. And it's not real. If you take the strongest criminal organizations in the world, the strongest of them all, I'm gonna give you two examples. The mafia. Look, the biggest rat known in history. He's out doing podcasts. He's doing one of these right now. He's out. Nobody killed him. Sammy Cavano, Sammy the Bull, took John Gotti down, and God knows how many other. He's fine. Nobody messing with him, right? So it's a fake life, right? You snitches get stitches, snitches go to ditch. It's all a myth. 6ix9ine and all these other famous rappers that rap this kill, loyal. It's a myth. It doesn't exist. All the gang leaders locked up, they all had members within their circle testifying. It's a fake lifestyle. So why am I going to keep it real to a fake lifestyle? What I did was I kept it real to the fake lifestyle so that when I come out, I can have this talk with you. I can be a credible messenger and tell the kids, I put on the fire suit, I go on the fire. I put on the doctor gloves, I have to get my hands bloody when it's time to get it bloody. But that's over with now. So I teach the kids, that's how I change the narrative. It's a fake lifestyle. Don't try to live your whole lifestyle based upon somebody's 3-minute rap song, because they're not living like that.
Right.
You know, and so this is, our kids really believe in these rap songs, and it's sick. It's sick. And these rappers, yes, some of them do come from the streets, and some of them do have street credibility, but they're not out there and all that. The ones that do that, look where they're at.
Right.
They're locked up, begging for forgiveness, begging for mercy, begging for sympathy, or they're snitching. Either one of them should just, tell everybody, hey, this ain't the lifestyle.
Or they're gone.
Right. Or they're gone. Yeah, there you go. Even better.
Or they died way too young.
Even better on the narrative of why not to be that. And then so that ties into the credible message of former gang leader, a major rival of mine, one of the leaders of what became the biggest Spanish gang in the world, asked me to go to Washington, D.C. with their mayor and become a credible messenger. And I felt it was an honor and a privilege. Even though he was a rival, I looked up to him. He was one of my favorite speakers. They know him as King Tone. And I went out there. He was my rival, Latin King Tone. I got trained into the credible messenger model, and I fell in love with what I saw. Like everything, I don't agree with everything, right? There's politics involved. There's this and that and that and this, but the model, I was already a credible messenger. The certificate just made me legal in it, right? The business aspect of it, right? But I was already a credible messenger. I didn't need King Tone or any credible messenger to tell me what I do on the streets here in Orlando, Miami, and everywhere else I have been. However, it brought us all together as a very powerful network, coast to coast. And I believe we're the poison that becomes the cure, right? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So tell me about the work with the kids and what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. Like, what's your week look like?
All right. So for example, today I had about 30 kids over there in OBT. Oh, officially I told them too. They were the first ones to train in our MMA cage. We have the only backyard in the world that has a MMA cage and a boxing ring dedicated to youth crime prevention. There's not another one nowhere else in the world but mine, and it's free. And so they got to train in the cage, and I thanked them, and I asked them, do you know what this is you trained in today? They're like, the Octagon. And I said, no, it's actually a juvenile prison in my backyard when you act up. I did tell them that. No, I did tell them that. No, but one of our models is one cage to another. I hashtag it a lot, one cage to another. I try to keep them in the MMA cage to prevent them from the prison cage, right? But everybody's not into MMA. Some of them are into dance, so we do dance. We do socializing. We do art. Some of them are doing art. And some of them just sit there and talk with the mentors. So we bring mentors in from all, like we had one youth pastor come today. He was a little hesitant to come. He was like, hey, am I going to be all right? And he was a white guy, and he didn't know how to relate with the neighborhood, but he had love in his heart. And he wanted to spread that. I said, dude, come. And nobody judged him. Nobody asked, yo, who's the white dude over there that doesn't dress like us, that doesn't talk? Nobody. I said, just come, dude, you'll be all right. So breaking stereotypes. And so we did that for 3 hours. I brought 3 of my girl students here. They're absolutely amazing. One just lost her father to fentanyl. That's poison. The whole thing about, weed, it's natural. If you ain't growing, that ain't natural. It's legal. If you don't have the medical card, it's not legal. Stop. Stop thinking it's natural. It's Lee. It's not for you.
Mhm.
Right. And he died from fentanyl. Right. And so now here I brought her with me. I brought 2 other kids with me that I feel like are going to be the future incredible messenger mentor. And they're teenagers, but who reaches to the 9 and 10? And that's where it all starts. 8, 9, 10, 11.
Mhm.
Who reaches them? My old behind? Your old behind? Right?
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you like that. You're actually probably a lot
I'm
younger
only
than me.
I'm only 21.
Yeah, you can pass for it, right? But no, but it's them. It's the younger girl. That's who they're gonna talk to. You know what I'm saying? They'll, they may up to us in time, but they'll open up to them right away. And so so we talked about credible messenger mentoring, and then we came here to be part of your podcast. I actually invited them. I said, listen, I want y'all to start watching how I do this, because I want y'all to take over. Your voice, you're young girls, so you'll be women, you'll be females, and you have stories that I don't have. My story's not your story is not my story, but your story is more important than my story. And they're like, nah, Coach, your story, I promise you, from what's going on these days, is more important. So I brought them here. Tomorrow, we'll be at CLIC, the Community Life Improvement Center, where it's becoming like a credible messenger center for the west side of Orlando. It's in the West Oaks Mall. We have our first ever youth advisory board. I'm so excited about that. And then at the end, we're hosting Muhammad Ali Jr., Muhammad Ali's only biological son.
Wow.
And so this has gone a long ways, this little local thing, but that's just 2 days. This is every day we have something going. Every single day we're doing wheels down, guns down. We do gloves up, guns down. Wheels down, guns down is roller skating or skateboarding out on a trail, one of the beautiful trails that we have here in Orange County.
So it's really, you told me this before, it's pleasant distractions.
Yeah.
It's activities to help keep the kids talking to each other, laughing with each other, having that same camaraderie that they
Absolutely.
otherwise would turn to a gang to find.
Absolutely.
And also just being really transparent and honest about the consequences if you don't follow the life that, a lot of people tell you is the best path for you, which is getting a job, getting educated, etc. If you don't follow in those footsteps, if you go down a path that could lead to crime, there are consequences.
Absolutely.
And it's really sad, because at the end of the day, we need a spiritual revolution. We need honesty and love, and we need to be able to have deep conversations with each other. But where do you get that if it's not church, if it's not school, and if it's not in your household?
And it can't be behind the desk with the social worker too much. And social workers got good hearts, but they're limited. They're so limited in what they could talk about, what they have to report, what they don't have to report. It's just, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Well, tell us a little bit about who our guests are here today.
So I'm actually super excited about 2 of our guests. We're missing one. She should have been here, but she couldn't come. Probably didn't do one of her chores, which I get it. But we have Aliana. She actually was trying to train with me like 7, 8 years ago. I think she was like this big. Seriously, she was probably about this big. And today was her second day training with us. She started this week, and she has such a vibrant, wonderful, positive spirit. She has her own story to tell, whatever she's comfortable talking about and not. And we're still actually getting to know each other. And then we have Nuri, and that's not her full name. It's that I keep butchering her whole name. Let me give it a shot. Lee-Alyse. I'm so sorry. What is it? Nuria. Okay, I call her Nuri, and she looks and she responds. Nuri has fell on a very, very hard time with her family as a person, and I'll let her tell her own story, but her mom was trying to get her and her son involved with the boxing, and she wanted to get her involved with some of the girls I have. She's like, you'll get along. And I happened to be in the car with them, the driver with all the girls, and the boys went with the woman. It was kind of like a reverse thing. It just happened like that because of my niece, who just lost her father. And I knew she would need girls around her, not boys annoying her and not being able to relate. And the conversations went so deep. I said, you are the future. You are the answer. When you get comfortable telling your stories, you're going to change the world. You are going to be it, not me, And then I was telling about you when you got it. I said, you have to meet Miss Lee Perry, because she's one of them women that she's proper, but you could feel that other side about her. I said, she's just like y'all. She's extremely beautiful. Gets told she's beautiful all the time. As soon as Lee-Alyse, that's the first thing she said, you're so beautiful. She's so beautiful, Coach. I said, well, tell her. She's like,
beauty starts from within, ladies.
So, and these girls are amazingly beautiful. Like, I think they've actually enhanced my program. Boys want to come all the time now. And I'm like, yo, what the hell is this? Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah. And I tell the boy, they'll tell you. I'm like, dude.
Meet them in the boxing ring.
Yeah. That's what I tell them. Yeah. I had to snap. Yes, look at her eyes. Yeah. Now I got all these boys want to come train all of a sudden. No. Yeah, you could train and get your behind back home. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But they have their own stories to tell.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'd love to invite you to come up to the couch.
Right
We're going to swap the mics. Come sit with me. We're going to do an
interview.
interview.
One of the girls laugh, doesn't matter.
Say hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome, ladies. It's so good
Hi.
to see you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourselves?
My name's Aliana. I'm 16 years old, and I started Root Camp. My brother has a history with Ruben, Coach Ruben, and boxing, and I really just I felt a need to get out and to socialize more. I wanted to get more intact with my body. I wanted to have a better community, So I felt like getting back in touch with Coach Ruben, Theo Ruben would be good. It would be really good, and so that's what I'm working on now. Just kind of working on myself.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Naria, and I'm 14. And I recently came in touch with Coach Ruben because my mom knew him and was trying to get my youngest brother in touch with fighting and, just learning that self-discipline. And I actually put it off since May. I actually really did. I didn't want to come. I didn't want to meet anyone new because, I'm not really a social butterfly. It takes a little while for me to settle in. And then I recently, I've been going through some stuff with my family, and we needed a place to stay, and I met Coach Ruben for the first time, and I really clicked with him, and I really appreciate that he sees so much potential in me that, I really only get from my mother, and she's my mom, so in my head it's like, of course my mom is always going to see that light in me,
Mm-hmm.
And,
And then what's your name?
Lee-Alyse. My mom, her husband died because he was drunk, and me and Mom was telling him to stop.
Okay. And how do you know Coach Ruben here?
Because he used to take me to his house when I was little, and he used to take me when I was a baby.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. So tell me a little bit about why you were scared at first and why you were hesitant.
I've been a really big procrastinator since I was really young. So for me, putting off things has always been, oh, that's just what I always do. And I've been trying to break that habit because it really does affect you in the long run, even if it doesn't seem like it. And for me, it was just like, I didn't want to meet him because I always try to make up who the person is before I actually meet them. So the person I had in mind was someone a lot different than who Coach Ruben actually is. And, I really put it off because I created like a whole different version of him before I even met him. So, yeah.
Well, so it sounds like you were really eager to kind of jump in and get to work because you understood that it was going to be like a spiritual experience and that it was going to help challenge you like physically and mentally. Did you have fears?
I had fears of maybe encountering people who may not have been happy with me kind of just coming in. Most people, there's a lot of kids that are with Ruben that have been with him and have so much trust and love for him because, they started young and he helped, develop and raise them. Whereas I so much wanted to when I was little, but I didn't have that experience. It didn't happen. And I'm coming in at 16, turning 17. And, I felt like maybe I won't be accepted. Whereas when I came in and there was just open arms everywhere, handshakes everywhere,
Mhm.
people ready to train me. It was one of my peers who ended up, actually training me and just like Ruben telling me great things, and it just made me want to get more involved. It
Mhm.
definitely made me want to get more involved. It gave me confidence. And so I just want to get my chores done. I want to have good grades so I can just go to Ruben's after. I want to go to Coach Ruben's, I want to box. I want to do this. I want to do that.
Mhm.
It's just like, it's inspiring.
Mhm. So tell me a little bit about what you guys do on a day-to-day from your perspective, and if you feel comfortable, like how it's helped you.
On a day-to-day, it's usually you come in, you're not bombarded. It's kind of like there's a greeting. There's the funny laughs, the personality before you get in check. It's making sure, are you good? Are you hydrated, stretched out, so that you can physically be okay, But what I really do like, I do like it that people, like your peers, the mentors, they come to you. They actually want to know about your day. It's not just, oh, I have a job to do. I want to
Mhm.
get this done. It's how are you feeling,
Mhm. Mhm.
And so what we do, we'll practice, we warm up, learning stances, techniques. You're learning how to actually structure yourself when it comes to boxing. And I feel like the discipline, and learning how to work your body, it's just like, it's for me. Earlier we were in the MMA cage. We were in the cage earlier that he has up, and we were working on footwork with someone named Anthony who was helping me with footwork. And it was like a brain game because I
Mhm.
had to learn how to move my body. I had to learn myself more, which I thought was amazing. I was
Mhm.
like doubting myself, but on a day-to-day, I feel like I'm learning more, getting more physically active. And it's exactly what I wanted. So
Mhm.
it's great. Yeah.
How about you? What have you been doing on a daily or weekly basis, and how do you think it's helped you?
For me, it's not as much boxing, it's more as the interaction because I'm very hesitant to meet new people and interact. But like she was saying, I feel very welcome. Everybody is so open arms and, you know, everyone is always providing an outlet. Like for her, it's boxing, and for me, it's just the interaction because a lot of people my age nowadays, they don't like to interact unless it's about drama. And, it doesn't feel like it's worth talking to these people anymore. So meeting everybody from Coach Ruben, seeing how real it was to have conversations with them, it was really amazing. And for me, what it looks like is I'll go, like today I painted with her and one of the other mentors. He was very nice. And I liked how he was so positive about expressing himself through art. That was like his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it's really something that I've never experienced before, you know?
So you painted today?
Yes.
What was that like?
It was like it was a lot of green on the paint, and then I put polka dots on it, and then but I was excited to put green on it.
Is green your favorite color?
Yes.
Oh, green and polka dots. That sounds like a good day.
She actually still has it all over her hands.
Well, where do you think you would be if you didn't have this program? Do you ever think and reflect? Like, I know I'll definitely consider myself at risk because a lot of people in my family that I grew up with either got pregnant really young or got in and out of the system or are living homeless right now. I'm really one of the few that's in a better situation that isn't in one of those situations. And quite frankly, I mean, I had incredible mentors that saw something in me worth investing in. And if it wasn't for them, if it wasn't for the small gestures of kindness and just taking responsibility to give me a helping hand when they're not my family, they don't owe me anything, but they took that initiative to do that for me. I think that's the reason why I'm now a homeowner why I have been able to work and build a career for myself, because of those, quite frankly, strangers that took that time to invest in me. How do you all feel credible messengers in these programs? How are they helping you, and have you reflected on what your life would be like without them?
I can say I definitely have. I have a history of using like marijuana as a coping mechanism for a way because I have a very long history with mental health. And I actually had money saved up that I was planning to buy, and I hadn't smoked in a while. So the fact that I was saving money for that, it was not really a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met Coach Ruben, and I finally saw like that there is good in people because I was out of school for a while, and none of my friends reached out, like only 3 maybe. And it was really upsetting because, you know, I put so much love, time, and energy into these people that to the point where they start to think, oh, well, I know she's always going to be there for me. She cares so much. I don't need to give anything into this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just getting really down about that. And then I met all these amazing people like you know?
I'd like to go off that. So I would say in my life, I say with all confidence, and I have been my biggest enemy. Like I've heard people when I was young, I heard people say it and I didn't understand. And then I understood as I grew up, and like I put myself through a lot of things mentally that I couldn't find ways to cope, or I put a lot of pressure on myself. As she said, when I transferred schools, me and my mom, we had moved. Um, when I had transferred school, I felt so alone. Nobody, all my friends, they didn't know how to text, they didn't know how to call.
Sorry.
There was no checking in. There was no how are you doing. It was just there was nothing there. And so to be a part of these amazing groups and organizations where you can meet people who actually care, because sometimes pain will bring you together, but while you're brought together by pain, you learn to heal others.
Mm-hmm.
So we're working on healing each other and healing others. We want to tell our story because we know people out there can identify. We know people out there could look up to us and be like, wow, you went through that too? Wow, you're so open to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this is what you went through. And it inspires me, when I have someone who identifies with me and they're so open to talk about something, and it fills my heart with so much joy to be like, okay, so this is okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes away and it deflects from all the self-hate I put into myself, from all the intrusive thoughts that are no good for me, or and it kind of, communication is key. I heard that too, and it's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, Coach Ruben brought up high suicide rates among kids, and I always associate suicide and mental health issues with extreme intelligence, because most of the people that I know who have inflicted self-harm or have committed suicide were some of the smartest people I've ever known. And I believe that with all this information through social media, we have more technology than we've ever had. Your generation and the next are going to see and learn more and be exposed, not just in their personal lives, but into the world around them, information that, quite frankly, at a certain point, you're too young to know all of it. And I really feel like it's extreme intelligence that is at a certain point an extreme exposure to information that is causing this perpetual rate of increased mental health issues and suicide among our young individuals.
I absolutely agree. I feel like there's a good and there's a bad end to the stick per se, because we're exposed to so much now. I seen a kid the other day with like an iPhone 11, and I was like, okay. And we get exposed from a young age to so much that kids, my peers, they get these ideas, and they want to challenge, they want to channel negativity, they want to channel this or that, which is no good for them. I had a friend who actually, it seemed like she wanted to be sad. Like she would her environment, she made it sad for herself, and I would always try to make her laugh, try to do this, and she'd be like, you're annoying, this that. So I had to get out of her life. I had to get, for my life, I had to get out of her life because I was too positive for her. And she wanted to be sad. I talked to her a few days ago, and her life flipped. It was positive before, and it's now negative now. It's like the energy that she wanted then, she has it now. She's going through horrible things now. And I told her, I was like, I just wish the time that you had to be happy, you took that, and you made yourself stronger instead of choosing to channel all of the negative that was around you. You know, and it's true. It's I guess you can blame social media, you can blame your other peers, you can blame just what you see, but it's all about the way that you take things in, the way you use them, because every vice could be used in a good or bad way. It's about the person. It's about what you choose to do with that. You know, there's everyone talks about social media. I've made friends on social media that have changed my life. I met someone in Lexington, California, not in Lexington, North Carolina. Changed my life. This girl is just so smart, and she helped me out, you know? I've met amazing people online. There's good and bad at every situation. You just have to be educated on who to trust, like what not to give out, and what to kind of draw yourself towards. You don't want to fall in a bad loop, you know?
But there's got to be someone and or some influence, something that has given you guys the tools to have that strength.
Absolutely.
Because I think part of the problem is that there are people who are weak because they weren't really given the tools at a young enough age, or maybe in the home, to build off of. And you can be that tool. You know, it takes, sometimes it almost feels like a burden because you're smarter both emotionally and intellectually because you've been exposed to more at a younger age. But at the end of the day, you know, you guys could be a conduit to facilitating conversations and giving people those tools, or at least making them accessible. Whether they take it or not, it's on them.
I 100% agree with everything you've been saying from the start of this question. Social media does give you the intelligence, and I can say that for a fact because I know I like to call it chronically online. I was very much chronically online for a while, and I learned a lot of stuff. For example, like troubles in other parts of the world, and it made me think, well, I'm so ungrateful. There are people going through so much worse on the other side of the world, and I'm complaining about this. And it put me down a rabbit hole of self-pity. And then also with what, like, TikTok is very much popular with my age. Like, everybody I know is like, oh, on TikTok this, TikTok that. And TikTok is enabling. Like, it encourages you to feel sad. Because it also creates like an outlet. But at the same time, somebody posts a sad TikTok, like, there's like accounts on TikTok that are made to be sad, to write sad, relatable comments. But then you don't realize you're creating a rabbit hole that you are going to go down.
Right.
Because you watch this video, it's going to show you more videos like this. And you're going to make yourself sad. Because everybody else feels sad, you are going to too. And I recently realized that myself. And I realized I need to get off social media. And then if I'm on TikTok and I see something that makes me feel some type of way, in my head, I'm like, oh, social media is getting too much. I need to get off. And I do. And music is my biggest way of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I have been trying to use social media, because I started noticing through having a podcast and social media and making really positive posts, for every negative thing that I see, I try to put out as much positive as possible. And if I'm angry about something, I try to post solutions to those problems so that hopefully it spreads. Well, it does. I mean, I noticed that people are starting to recognize me when I'm out in public. It's really weird because I'm like, I don't even have that many followers. But like, I even went to pick up a piece of furniture the other day and they're like, are you Lee? Like, I've had people in restaurants, I've had people. And at first I was really like, I do not want people following me on social media. Like, I like to be private. I wish I didn't even have to look at my phone. But when I hear stories like what you guys are sharing, and when I hear Coach Ruben talk about, you know, why someone would want to go into a gang, right? We need connection. We need love. We need positivity. social media is kind of a big puddle of just all of it. But if we can put out good, if we can put out love in our day-to-day interactions where we're real with people up front, in person, and through social media, I really feel like we can change society, you know? And, I just want to hear more about your experiences, moving forward. What's the future going to be like for you guys?
The future for me is it's not just bettering myself. I really do want to take on mentoring. That is something that I'm actually passionate about. I want to reach out to someone. I want to make changes with people. Actually make changes with people. And a lot of people say it, but I want to see changes, most people, it's almost inevitable to grow up without some sort of scar. And some sort of scar that you go through, emotionally, mentally, physically, you go through things. And what might hurt you might not have hurt someone else. And what might be a big deal to you might not have been that much, but everyone is different. We all take in things differently. And I feel like that's exactly why we should all communicate and talk to each other, because what might be hurting me might not have hurt you that bad. So you can kind of help me with healing on that aspect, and vice versa. Absolutely vice versa. We went through different pain. And so when we come together, we could all just heal. We could all just educate on topics. When I was with Coach Ruben and I was with these girls and we talked in the car, we talked about things, I was like, you guys know about this stuff too? Literally is what I thought. And I guess it was a little bit, someone was ignorant of me, but I was not exposed to people that talked about these things, that knew about these things, that so openly, just like, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. And not to go back, but this is just an example. It's like, it's all about choices and kind of how you direct yourself. For example, on social media, I wanted to change my feed. So I just started liking a lot of like dog posts and happy posts. And now that's all I see, because I made that choice to go out and look for dog posts and to look for positive things. Yep. And now that's there. Just like what I'm trying to surround myself with, with my peers and mentors.
I 100% agree with you. That's what I was talking about, like with social media. You have to, and I really appreciate your work, like your podcast. Listening to Coach Ruben, I was learning things I didn't know, and everything made sense. It all clicks. And it's kind of like you're bringing up topics that no one wants to talk about in the real world, No one wants to speak on these things because they're somewhat forbidden. Because, this person can't handle that, But in reality, you're going to see it, and you need to learn how to handle it.
Yeah. I'll always remember, I told you guys that my mom was an addict, so we had this drop-in center is what they called it, where it was basically a 24-hour spot where people can come and get a warm meal, coffee. They could use the P.O. boxes there for like mail if they were homeless. And then we passed out condoms and clean syringes. And they did like Reiki and meditation and yoga and stuff like that, and massages and stuff, and manicures, pedicures, just whatever you needed, they would do. And I remember when my grandma found out, she like lost it. She was so upset that I was 9 years old passing out condoms and syringes to addicts in this drop-in center. But reflecting back as a 32-year-old woman, I'm not 21, I'm 32. And I'm proud of it.
I didn't know that.
Reflecting.
Yes.
The curls always keep us looking young,
Yes,
ladies.
they do.
So reflecting back, I realized that those days were some of the most important days of my life. Being in the hardest moments and seeing up close and center people going through withdrawals and honest, addicts, breaking their 12 weeks and having to face their families and having those tough conversations. Sometimes I look back and I would get upset, like, man, I grew up too young. I wish I could have had more time to just have played with my dolls but now, especially seeing how hard a lot of my family, my friends are struggling, and they haven't really gone through as much as I have, I feel like it gave me an emotional intelligence at a younger age that has kept me pushing and I'm able to build on a lot of that strength. What is the future for you, and how do you build on your strength?
For me, my future, I see myself being just helping because, I found myself, like, something about myself is that I always want to help people. And, it can be self-sabotage sometimes when you're giving too much. But my goal is to find a balance. And at first I wanted to work with kids because I really do love kids. And my mindset with kids is that this is the future. This is going to be our leaders when I'm too old to be a leader, when my generation is too old. So you have to raise them correctly. You have to give them everything that they need to excel, But, over time I got into mentoring with a different mentor. Her name is Casey. And she really did open my eyes to see how much she helped me. Because, I was not an outside kid. And she would take us places. And it was really nice because I also got to meet people that I clicked with really well. And then I thought, I need to be a therapist. I need to be working with kids and helping their mental health because of how much this was an inspiration for me. And then now I recently got into true crime because, one goal that I would love to set for myself if I ever did go down that path is breaking a sex trafficking ring, because that is also helping people. That's helping these people who feel like lose hope, So, yeah.
And what do you want to do professionally?
Since I was younger, I feel like my mom, I have a single mom. My father was in my life, but she's always talked to me like she always told me I had to be stronger in this world because it's just how I had to be. And she always said, Nana, you have to be tougher. Nana, you have to be tougher. And I never understood, and I got older, and I slowly just started to understand, that I had to be tougher, and I had to, she always said, like, your mind is like liquid gold. Like, you have to be strong. You have to build this knowledge, And I love that because when I got older, I realized that I just love people. I just love communicating with people, and I love the mind. You know what I'm saying? So therapy is something I also was thinking about. Psychology is something that I'm in right now. I'm looking into right now, and also I'm in a marine science class, and it opened my mind so much. Just like the world, the environment, our ocean. It has me so driven to be more. I went to my mom for the first time in my life, and I was like, Mom, I know what I want to do with my life. And she almost cried. She said, I never heard you say that. And it's because here's an example. I was in class, and my teacher was teaching me about how, they have shark fin soup, and they just cut off the fin and they just throw the shark in the water and it sinks to the bottom and just dies. And it just made me think. It just was so sad. Like, changes need to happen. They need to happen, and people like to talk about it. People like to say, oh, that would be good to have a change, but no one dedicates themselves to making changes. Changes need to happen. And it does start with mentoring the youth and them knowing, what they're capable of. Not just saying, oh, no, you should be learning this and that. There is no limit to learning. There won't be a limit to learning. There's everything. Teach them everything, And that's just how I feel about the future and what I want to do, Yeah, definitely.
Well, there you have it, folks. These are our leaders. I can't wait to see you guys in Congress one day. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for sharing your stories. Is there anything that you want to let our viewers know, something to take home to remember?
I would say just remember that you are a leader yourself, and that someone is always going to be looking up to you. Like kids, they see you at the grocery store, just smile. A lot of people don't smile anymore. And it does make a big difference. So, you are a leader, and just set that path, even if it's not who you are. Someone is always watching.
I would like to say, try to be the positive person in someone's day. Even if you had a bad day, even if you're going through things, you wouldn't believe how much it will make you feel better just to make someone else feel good, just to make someone smile. you ever walked, had a bad day, and someone smiled at you, be that person. And I've talked to my mentors and peers about, just making people happy makes me happy, and that's why people be like, she's so positive. Be positive. Just try to be positive. It's an amazing feeling. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
We're going to invite Coach Ruben to close us out with some last comments. So thank you so much. And no, she can stay.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this moment to get to be kind of like an auntie right now, because
Or future mommy.
Not soon.
She did ask you in the parking
Not
lot.
soon.
Can I be your daughter?
She was like, "Can I be your daughter?" I was like, "Absolutely." So, Coach Ruben, wow, these ladies are very powerful. Are these the types of conversations that you're having on a regular basis?
No, way more extreme.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, they gave you the watered down version. Yeah,
Really?
they gave you the watered down version. They what they need. They don't need me in their circle though.
Mm.
I was proud to hear what I heard, but I said you need your own circles. You don't need me there. You don't need social workers there. I'm not saying there's not importance in social work. Please, people, don't butcher me about that. I understand we need the professionals, but even the professionals are reading books, and the books that they read are their lives.
Right.
It's their life that we're reading about. They're amazing. I know this podcast wasn't like supposed to primarily focus on them, but it all comes back to them. The whole youth crime prevention work, it comes back to them. And I'm a believer in their empowerment. They empower each other. I mean, next week, they might not speak to each other for a week or whatever, right? People go through that type of stuff. But overall, the bondage that they have, and there's one more, and there's actually a couple, but there's three of them that are real strong. And they speak for themselves. I don't have to say anything about them. I don't have to speak for them. They didn't come scripted. They didn't even know they were going to sit on this couch with you today. I brought them to learn what it's like to be interviewed, because I believe that they're going to be future leaders. And you invited them, which was an absolute amazing blessing. And what do you think about it? Why don't you close out?
Well, I reflect on, like, you could be doing anything. You could have gotten a job in any field. You could have worked your way up. You could be a manager. You
Not
could be
true.
a
I have a
CEO
record.
right now. Hey, still, people.
McDonald's gives me a hard time.
No, that's okay. I mean, even then, I see, there are a lot of people that are finally coming around and hiring, ex-felons and working them up to climb the ladder. And our society is changing, and you didn't choose that. You didn't choose a life where you could clock in, clock out, go on vacation, and provide for just you. You chose a life to give back to the community.
Absolutely.
And I think that the testaments of these young ladies that spoke today is really showing the value of the work that you do.
Yeah. I'm glad we have women such as yourself that they can look up to aspire to understand that it's cool to have curly hair and be no, but seriously, like they could tell you, I tooted, your horn. Your horn speaks for itself, but I was tooting your horn on the way here, like you got to meet her. She's absolutely amazing. I'm sure y'all will be able to relate. She doesn't play the game. She works for politicians, but when she feels like something ain't wrong, she don't mind giving them a little bite of their butt, whatever language you want to use for it.
Yeah, you have some friends, but sometimes you don't have a lot of friends in certain spaces, and politics is one of those spaces.
Yeah.
So tell us where we can learn more about Credible Messengers and what's on the horizon for your program.
Okay. I'm on Instagram, Rue Camp Champs, Rue_camp_champs. That's probably like the easiest way. Or social media, Rue Camp Saldana. On Facebook, either or, and then from there we can get the numbers going or address, or come out, see I tell people all the time, I don't even like talk, just come meet us out there and see what the kids are doing, see if it's real, see if they're just talking, see if I'm just talking, see if I'm wasting resources or whatever, right? Come see it and you'll see it for yourself. What I see in the future, I really don't know. I mean, like, if you take this prison story, right, and a kid being beat up, and me hanging a punching bag in his one yard, her mom's yard and her father's yard. May he rest in peace. We just buried him this Saturday, I believe. And hanging that bag up to teach her, their family member how to box and 20, 30 kids hop in the gate and say, hey, I want to learn. Well, let me talk to your parents. And that was 9 years ago. And then now look, I've been to Rome, Italy's Olympic Center. We won the first World Youth MMA World Championship. Last year I was in Amsterdam. No, I wasn't smoking weed and dropping gummies and all that other good stuff, right? but it was a world championship there. I coached the African team. I've brought some of my youth fighters to Africa to fight. I've been to South America with this. I've traveled the world because of this amazing program. And I don't plan. I swear I don't. Like Muhammad Ali Jr.'s manager reached out to me 2 weeks ago. I didn't reach out to him. He found me on Facebook. And I said, oh, look at God working here, right? God, he, she, it, them. We're not going to get into all that, right? But, it's just, there's a force greater than me. And I'm just a vehicle for however, until this old heart kicks, I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to keep these sneaks to the streets. I'm going to keep loving on these kids. I'm going to keep pissing people off because, my lingo is going to be a little different. I don't like to play the regular flute of politics. And I don't like to play, not even on the streets, I don't play the politics. I get people pissed off there and it's all good. It is what it is.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing your story, and thank you for and we'll be posting everything in the comments, so thank you all so much for watching, and we so appreciate you.
Right on. Thank
Good
you.
night.